guys get? Okay, you have in front of you a page that says test. No, not test. It's not a test. It's not a test. Relax. It does not say test. It looks like a test. You have to have your name and your surname on there, and you have to sign to say that you're only doing it for yourself. All right? So I do count the people. I do count the pages. Do not do it. I do not want to catch you, and I will. I don't like that. I hate policing. So just be honest. If somebody's not here, they're not here. They just sit up. It's not for marks, right? You're not going to get marks. But in the final instance, it might help you with your marks if you did it. Right. So if somebody's not here, they will not lose marks. Hear me? So do not, I repeat, do not write one for someone else. Okay. For those people live streaming, if you go to Sunlearn, you will see this document on trade and financial flows. So for these of you as well, if you want to refer back to this, we're going to discuss some of this. So it's not a test. It's just that you have it. I want you to hand it in at the end of the lecture. Right. If you go down and you look at balance of payments, I think it's balance of payments, you will see that there's a document that should have been opened at 3 p.m., which is now. And it looks like that. No, it doesn't. Right, I don't know why it doesn't do that. Let's see. So you guys might want to, let me just do that quickly. I'll remove the restrict access, so it should be available. And that is the document that you want to use. Okay, it should save it for you, so there you go. Okay, that is this document that we are going to refer to. It looks like this. Let me just quickly open this. There we go. All right. Okay, everybody with me? But before we get there, I want to return back to the exchange rate. Before we stop talking about the exchange rate, I want to ask whether all of you guys are okay with the exchange rates. Okay, I promised that we would have done the calculations yesterday. We didn't, so we'll do that in the next lab session so that you know how to draw the graphs and so on. So spend some time on that in the next session. Okay, you guys please don't talk. All right. We finished with this. Remember, that was the page that we looked at. And we said these are issues, factors that will impact the South African economy. Okay, have you seen what's happening in England today? Have you done your news for the week? Do you know who the BOE is? In global terms, the BOE is the Bank of England. And 12 o'clock today, they announced what they would do with their interest rates. On BBC.com, they had the news. The Bank of England kept their interest rate constant at 0.5%. And in anticipation of that specific decision, the pound depreciated against the euro, for instance. Okay, there was news of that in News 24 this morning. Okay, and you would be able to describe that now, explain how it worked, using our graph, saying if we have pounds per euro, quantity of euro, what would happen to demand and supply? You have to do that. Okay, and ask me if you don't understand. It's like what you've been doing all along. Are you following me? Correct. That's that. So those things are important. So if you look at these, Is there anything you want to ask about this? You do not have to have the money supply market graph in your assignment. It would be a good idea if you visually just represent the exchange rates movement, but then you're just looking at the series. You're not going to look at the one supply. You could, but it's not really this. You don't have enough words for all that. Yeah. All right. This was the page that I handed out that we had that's on with Sunlearn as well, which gives you the summary of the exchange rates. We didn't really look at that, but you can see there's the weighted average, which is what? Anybody? Another word for the weighted average of the exchange rate? The effective exchange rate. Well done. And then you have the bilateral exchange rates below that. You have the Rand Euro, you have the Rand US dollar, Rand Chinese yuan, British pound. What is the sterling? If you read the BBC article on the news, it would say, starts off with a pound and then I mentioned the sterling depreciated this year. What is the sterling? It is a pound. It's just another word for the currency of England. So if you see that, that's like they call, that's more official, but like they call the US dollar the greenback. Those are things you need to know. Like the Chinese yuan, the system is also called the renminbi. Okay, that's the same thing for Chinese currency. Okay, so those are just things that you need to pick up so that you read it, that you know what you're reading. So you just sound knowledgeable once you're out in the workplace. Then people will not say, oh, stupid, she doesn't know that. All right, you with me? All right, are you all asleep? And here we can see in 2015, what's been happening to our average exchange rate. It's been, we didn't really lose, if you think we've really lost in terms of our bilateral rates. Our bilateral exchange rates seem to have gone down. The average rate, the average nominal effective exchange rate decreased a little, but then they say, yeah, the real effective exchange rate moved sideways. So now what is again the difference? Why did the others decrease? There was a decrease in the weighted average. You can see from 30 June 2015 to 9 September 2015, a minus 8% decrease in the effective exchange rate. But they say the real effective exchange rate did not really deteriorate. What is the difference? You remember from yesterday, no, from Tuesday. You had it right on Tuesday. What's the difference between nominal and real? The inflation rates. So if we take account of inflation between the different countries in our exchange rate, then our exchange rate's purchasing power in terms of the currencies of our trading partners, the 20. Are you on my page now? Where we've been Tuesday. Okay, I'm trying to get you to open those folders and files so that we can access that data that you have already, right? In terms of that, we did not lose purchasing power, which is good. That's the real value remained the same of the rand, in spite of all the bilateral depreciations that occurred. Right, you get the story. So that's a positive thingy. If our external competitiveness remained the same. Why? Because the value of our currency in real terms did not decrease. We didn't know that until we see the Reserve Bank telling us that. All right, I'll move on. I'm finishing mostly with this. Then just 3 words on the policy. Remember I told you about the average daily transactions where we do the quantity of dollars in the market. That quantity is what you find in the Reserve Bank's quarterly bulletin. At the end of the international relations section in the review, they tell you that we had about $7 billion worth of daily spot transactions. Where do I get the 7? Somewhere there. Swap market, the spot and forward markets increased from 2.8 to 3 billion and from 2.1. Anyway, never mind. All right, then the news. Those are the things that you get. We talked about that all the time. The BOE, for instance, that story. And then what I want you to have a look at, I'm not going to talk about it too much, is that I don't know if you've heard about the Big Mac Index. But the Big Mac Index is something the economist publishes. They say that a Big Mac should actually, in all countries, be the same price. Okay? So you should be able to afford a Big Mac similarly in South Africa and in Europe and in America. You're following that jargon, that logic, right, with me? So they use that, which they call the purchasing power parity exchange rate. And I just wanted to say this because you need to know what PPP is. Often we get that notion when you look at World Bank tables, you look at United Nations tables, you look at growth figures, you have comparisons in terms of inequality between countries, things that you look at in terms of policy analysis. They often say PPP US dollars. Have you ever seen that? World Bank figures and so on. That PPP means purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity. In Afrikaans, koopkragpariteit. Purchasing power parity. And that is what it means. It says that you actually, if you take an amount of money and you buy something in this country, and you then take that amount of money, exchange it for the other country's currency, and you then purchase the same goods in that country. So you understand what I'm saying? So I take 100 Rand, I purchase some goods. I take 100 Rand, I exchange it for dollars. With dollars, I purchase some goods. And if the two baskets are equal, after I've exchanged the money, I have to purchase the same goods for that 100 Rand. Then the exchange rate that I had is the purchasing power parity exchange rate. And that's where the Big Mac thing comes in. So I'm going to put this up. You can follow the link, go to the economist page, and go look at the Big Mac Index. Right, that's quite a fun way of looking at this whole notion of purchasing power parity. So make a note somewhere in your head. PPP, purchasing power parity. So if they say PPP dollars, they mean the exchange rate that would make the same, you buy the same goods in countries with the same money after you've exchanged it into dollars. Make sense? Right. Think about that. Purchasing power parity. Okay. So I'm just going to talk about that too much. And then for your portfolios, you might want to refer to this. This is at the end in your textbook, at the end of the chapter. The section on exchange rates, section 16.4. They give a summary there of what policy can do. Exchange rate policy, well, it's the end of the chapter, right, just before the terms of trade. Now, if you look at your portfolio and you have to discuss the exchange rate policy, policy goes about what exchange rate regime to choose. That's the first thing. Flexible or fixed. We have flexible, so you might want to say, is that a good thing or a bad thing, if you evaluate. Then secondly, if we have a floating exchange rate, then these are our options of how to, or for government, of how to influence the exchange rate. So it can do nothing, which is what we mostly do. Actually, that's our policy. because we have inflation targeting, we know from the monetary policy side. So the exchange rate is the thing that we can adjust. Or they could intervene in the foreign exchange market. We cannot afford that because we don't have sufficient reserves. So that's not an option for South Africa. And thirdly, they can use interest rates to impact the exchange rate. That has been done before we had inflation targeting, and that's very bad because then the interest rates go up so much, and that curbs economic growth. Okay, maybe you can remember that from monetary policy. So in our case, what you would say in your portfolio is that we have a floating exchange rate, and the government's policy in terms of the exchange rate is to do nothing. That's why we have the depreciations and the appreciations. And then you have to say, what do you think it's a good or a bad thing? And there's lots of information about that, but don't spend more than, you don't have to write more than 100 words, 150 words max, actually less than 100 words of this. Right, so that's a small section in your portfolio. You're going to run out of words for that first bit. Okay, you with me? You see where to get that? All right. Then I'm going to go quickly to this one. So what I want to do today is to quickly talk to you about the balance of payments after we've done all this stuff yesterday, and most of you probably don't have a clue what you've done. Am I right? Yes, I thought so. But at least you have looked, you have seen something. Now we can put it in a sort of a mold. Okay, what is it that we were looking at? Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about the South African balance of payments. And you look at your worksheet, or whatever you want to call it, the thing you have to have in at the end of the day. Okay, so you might want this. And as I go through it, see whether you can answer from what I'm saying. Okay, and you have to ask if you can't see. Right, so just those questions. Basically, what is the South African balance of payments? So what we have is, we have the South African Reserve Bank, and they are the custodian. One of their functions, remember you did the functions of the Reserve Bank? Did you? You did it? With Olivia? You did it? You so did? Otherwise, I'm going to talk to the course coordinator. Tell her this is not on. Okay, one of the functions of the Reserve Bank, which you must remember, is that they're the custodian of South Africa's foreign exchange reserves. Can you remember that? They look after our foreign exchange and gold. So basically what we have is there's this, and this physically is true, in Pretoria, under the Reserve Bank, there are these huge vaults, and in there we have South Africa's stock of gold, plus we have some financial assets, plus we have all the foreign exchange that we gather physically. So if guys come in with euros, they would exchange it with the money exchangers, at the foreign exchanges, with the whole exchange, right? And then they would get rand, and then that goes to the Reserve Bank there. The Reserve Bank has those that they give to the banks to trade in. So that's all there. Big, big vaults with those, what do you call those doors. You know, like in the movies when they go and they try to break into these big vaults with those major doors and they laser it and those things. All right, so they're there. So that is what we get from our transactions with the rest of the world. And that level is determined by the transactions that happens between South Africans and the rest of the world. All right, so you see where we are. Now we know that transactions impact the exchange rate, because we've done exchange rate. And we just write these transactions up in what we call the balance of payments. And in the end, the net result of all the transactions is determining the level of international reserves. that we as a country have and the Reserve Bank keeps. You with me? Right. Now, those reserves can go up because of the transactions in the balance of payments. What type of transactions do you think will lead to an increase in our reserves of foreign exchange? Okay, this is not rhetorical. This means each one think it. If you think it now with me, I promise you will know it, and you do not have to study it again. Okay? Think physically. You've been looking, we've been talking. Mention one transaction. If you don't answer me, I'm going to make you write it up as well. Come on. Mention one transaction that will increase the level of our reserves, meaning the foreign exchange that we receive from the rest of the world. One transaction. Foreign investment, what does that mean? That's right, but what does it mean? What is foreign investment? Oh, we're talking about it. A foreigner buying shares in South Africa, he will bring, well done, he will bring his euros, purchase, rands, go to the JSE and buy the stock on the JSE. Guys, you have to think practically, otherwise it becomes this thing which you have to study. Okay, see the transaction. Huh? Does it make sense? JP Morgan, a guy from there, he's an investor, he comes and he buys shares in Nedbank, South Africa, for instance. What happens? Bring American dollars, supply it. Where does the dollars go? Exchange, go to the Reserve Bank, there it goes up. Okay, mention one transaction that will decrease, and I don't want this investment, that will decrease the international reserves. No, that's too easy. Something on the current account. Export of what? Give me a transaction. Excellent. What transaction? What is export? Come, who's exporting what? Come quickly. Think of an example. Everybody, think of an example of an export. Go, by whom, to whom? Come, everybody, think of an example of an export. Give me an example. It does not help if I stand here and I can tell you all these things just like that. I can do it in 10 minutes flat and you will get zilch. I know that. So, humor me. Come on. Give me an example. Diamante, wat van diamante? Okay, wie verkoop het aan watter land? Wie in Amerika vir diamante koop? Okay, there's this jeweler in America and they purchase diamonds from the Beers in South Africa. And that what happens? They need to pay in rand, so they will supply dollars and they will demand rand to pay for that. What will happen here? This is this one. Exports, right. So she's quickly just in the story, fabulous. So now South African jewelers purchase the cut diamonds from the jeweler in probably Israel. The guys in Israel do the diamond cutting, okay? And therefore they need to pay in foreign currency. If they purchase from Israel, they'll have to pay shekel. So what happens? Shekel flows out of the country. They supply rand, demand shekel, go to Israel, pay the jeweler there for the diamonds, and that decreases. Are you with me? Right. So, moral of the story. Outflows foreign exchange out of the country are indicated as a minus in the record. So the balance of payments is actually just a statistical record. So imports of goods, think what we import. Write the example. The import of goods, services will decrease the reserves, and that is recorded as a debit or a minus in the balance of payments. So that's the goods. Or then, if we purchase financial assets or change in financial assets or liabilities, that's an outflow. That's your share type of thing, right? On the other hand, if we have, okay, that will decrease the reserves. On the other hand, if we have inflows from the exports, we call that exports, or then the increased inflows on financial assets and liabilities, that would be a plus. It's a plus in the balance of payments, it's a credit, and that will increase the international reserves. And this is the thing that impacts basically the balance of payments and the exchange rate. That's the story. That's where we record everything. Right, you with me? This is a bigger picture. So now, in the balance of payments, the things we looked at yesterday was we're looking at the imports and exports of goods. Come follow me. We're looking at the inflows and outflows in terms of the financial assets and liabilities. In order in the end to say that what happens to our international reserve stock. All right, with me, guys? Good, let's go. Imports and exports are important. This is a very important account. Where do I see that? Come tell me in the balance of payments. Where did we see yesterday? Imports and exports. In the current account. In the current account. So firstly, the current account consists of goods and gold, import and exports of goods, and the export of gold. Africa is a gold producing country, so we have a separate entry in terms of gold. If we add that, remember that first thing, what do we call the balance if we only look at merchandise, imports and exports? Yes. Just look at goods and gold. Come on, we've done that for 2 weeks in the practical session, the lab session. Hello, is there a class here? I'm talking to myself here. Anybody, what do we call it when we transact in goods alone? We trade. Ever heard of trade? We trade. Yes, that's the trade account. So in the trade account, we have trade. Whoa. Surprise, surprise. Trade of what? Trade of goods. Goods and services, not services, just goods. Goods and gold. That's the trade account. That's where the trade account comes from. Right, so that we call the trade account. Is our trade account in surplus or in deficit? Oh, that's a loaded question. In the second quarter, now you need to ask me when. In August 2015, we saw that there was a deficit on the trade account. That's where the imports were greater than exports. In July, there was a deficit that they originally recorded as a surplus, remember that? But the updated figures show that it was a deficit. You with me? And the second quarter, the bulletin, the second quarter of 2015 said that there was a deficit. And we'll look at that just now. So, what are the surplus? So what we have is traditionally, we had up to 2010, we had a lot of trade surpluses. Can you see that? Then after 2011, we started having trade deficits, and the second quarter of 2015 was the first time for very long that we recorded a small trade surplus. What does that mean? Quickly. What is greater than great? What? Exports, the inflows from exports are greater than the outflows from imports of goods. Okay, trade account goods, only goods, right? And that is an important indication of where the country is and how much money or how much goods we trade with other countries. Right, that's the first account in the current account. The current account consists of 3 sections. So the first one is the trade account. Then secondly, we also trade in things like tourism, financial transactions, transport, all those type of things would be what we call services. So we add a section in the current account, services. Right? Remember, I told you quickly have a look at how it goes. So services is a net outflow for South Africa. So we mostly, actually always, have a negative balance on the services account. That's service receipts and service payments. Okay, so that's services. With services, we add what we call these things where we trade with factors of production. So that is where we need to pay for the capital that we've used, like dividends would be a payment, a factor payment, we call that factor payments. Payments for using other countries' factors of production. Okay, dividends is the biggest one there. Also interest that we have to pay, so those type of things. And when you have used Table Mountain for a month or so ago, they were closed, the cable car was closed for maintenance. And it was guys from Switzerland, Sweden, one of those two, can't remember, that came with their expertise to help service the cable car. So we have to pay those guys, we pay them, that goes in here. This is called income payments, net income payments. Those two are added to what we call the service and income account under the current account. So the current account consists of the trade account, the services account, and the income account. Okay, you following me? So these are the things that we trade. We trade goods, we trade services, and we trade factors of production. Or the use of capital, it would be like in the dividends. Are you with me? So any transaction that happens, that you see in the news happening, in any one of those items will have an impact, will be recorded in balance of payments, and that has an implication for the inflow or outflow of currency, and therefore the value of rand. Are you getting to see that picture? Right. So that's our services and income account. It also, in this way, adds the fourth section of the current account, which is current transfers. In South Africa, that is also negative. Transfers are things that you send to another country. That would be goods or so on, or income that you gain from working or so on. That is, you just send it as sort of a gift, right? So aid would be in there. If we send aid relief to Mozambique where they had floods or things like that would be in the current transfers, right? So how does that look? Is this a deficit or a surplus? It's a big deficit, and you can see 2015, it's the first 2 quarters. It does not really look much different from the normal trend. So we have a net payment of services and income. Right. Now, those are the 2 sections that make up the current account balance. So what did you see yesterday? What was the current account balance? A deficit. Why is it in deficit? Because we mostly have trade deficits. We're importing more goods than we're exporting. except for the second quarter for a while. That was because of the commodity prices, among other things. Okay, that was lower, than we had a little bit more exports initially, and we had less import payments for oil, so that made a little surplus. But generally, you can see we have a deficit. We add to that the e-services income and current transfer account that is majorly in deficit, and that makes up the current account, which is in deficit. This is the first major account in the balance of payments. Are you with me? Okay. So you should by now be able to answer all the questions on the current account. Is there anybody that wants to ask anything on the current account? In your mind, can you see the transactions, all the goods, all the services, all the factors of production being traded between South Africans and the rest of the world? They're all recorded there. And generally, we know that the result on our foreign exchange reserves will be a decrease in the reserves because of those payments. You with me, guys? All right. That's the first account. Then we have the second account. The second account is called the capital transfer account. Capital transfer account. This is mostly for immigrants. My brother and his partner immigrated last year to England, and they packed up everything. They were staying in Benito. They packed up everything there. They exported it to England, just south of London, and they have set up a new house and a new life outside. So they've taken all their paintings and their artworks and their dogs and their car they sold and took the money and all their investments and their house, value of their house, not their house. Their house is still there. It's still there. All right. So that was part of capital transfers. That's a second account. That's not very large. Okay, so the balance of payments come one current account. Secondly, the capital transfer account. Then thirdly, the financial account. Okay, this is also the big one. So we have the two big ones, the current account and the financial account. So the financial account, we get the trade in financial assets and liabilities. Some would cause inflows and some would cause outflows. And those are the ones that mainly impact on the exchange rate of the rand, like you now know. That's the ones with the interest rates, the expectations, and all those things play a part. Okay, you see where I'm going. So this account, this financial account, consists of 5 subsections. Firstly, we have what we call foreign direct investment. Okay, foreign direct investment. That is an example of that would be when Barclays Bank in overseas purchased the majority share in Absa Bank a couple of years ago. That is foreign direct investment because they invested in order to have a majority vote in that business. So they basically want to do business in the country with that company. Okay, you with me? That is FDI, foreign direct investment. Buitelandse direkte investering of beleggings, right? That is what Thabo Mbeki, when he was president, he in his State of the Nation address normally referred to this as the brick and mortar investment that we need. Brick and mortar investment, the actual physical people come because they want to do business, they want to stay, they want to establish. You with me? Okay, that's the first one, FDI. Secondly, we have what he mentioned. The first thing when I said what will lead to an inflow of foreign exchange, he said purchasing shares. Now this is just shares, would be an example of portfolio investments. When the pension funds in America come and they purchase as part of their portfolio of investments globally, they purchase shares in South African companies, but not the majority share, just shares in terms of making a profit. So they pick nicely. They say, okay, they predict Naspers is a good one to do because they will be growing and they have a good strategy. They look at all that and that will be part of their investment. Do they own Naspers? No. Are they on the board? No. They just want to buy those shares. That's portfolio investments. In South Africa, that is a major inflow. So that's the main one. That's where we earn or where we gain a lot of inflows of foreign exchange. If we do not have this one, we have problems on our balance of payments. And we'll talk about that on Tuesday when we look at those. Right, that's the second one. So the FDI portfolio. And the third one is what they call financial derivatives. Those are flows in financial derivatives. Now, those are instruments, financial instruments that have been developed to trade the risk in terms of certain financial assets and currencies. Those are like futures, things you would hear like futures and swaps and instruments, financial instruments that are traded. That is becoming increasingly important in world trade. So that's the third section. You will see financial derivatives. Okay. Then the fourth one is our financial assets. No, that's wrong way around. First that one. No, first the others. Sorry. Yeah, that's right way around. Fourth one is other. Other investments or flows would be like loans. Trade credit. So if a company in South Africa sells something to a company in Germany and South African company says, it's okay, you don't have to pay us immediately, you can pay us in 6 months' time, that would be trade credit. Those types of flows will be in other, right? That's the fourth one. And the fifth one is basically tells us what has been happening. What is happening in our reserved assets? Our reserve assets. Was there an inflow or an outflow? So that's the result of all the transactions. Okay, did we gain financial assets or foreign exchange assets? This is in one of those vaults, typically. This is the gold reserves. Also the foreign exchange reserves. What happened in terms of that? Who sold what to who? Did we gain or did we not? Okay, and it looks like that. There's the financial account. This is in the balance of payments. This is the newest one up to, this is annual figures up to 2014. And you can see there the 5 accounts. Can you see? Financial account consists of net direct investment, net direct investment, that's the FDI. The portfolio investment, that's the second one. Then the financial derivatives, can you see it there? Fourthly, the others, that includes loans, okay, and credit, trade credit. And fifthly, the change in reserve assets. And that is the third account, the financial account of the balance of payments. So in your portfolio, you'll have to mention what's been happening to the current account, very briefly, what's been happening to the financial account, and then you have to say, okay, do we have a problem or not? So that's the third account. Fourthly, we have what we call unrecorded transactions. Those are transactions that happened, but they're just not sure where to categorize it yet. There's not enough information yet. And that will subsequently, in the next quarterly bulletin, they will then adjust the data and put it where it needs to go. They might not be sure where it's the derivatives or portfolio or even direct investment. So then they will sort it and put it in the right bracket. That is just sort of a statistical entry. So So that's not large. That's the default account. You have it. Balance of payments have 4 accounts. The 4 accounts are current account, the capital transfer account, the financial account, and the unrecorded transactions. The current account consists of trade, which is goods, consists of flows and services, and income flows, and current transfers. Then the financial account consists of 5 sections: FDI, foreign direct investment, portfolio investment, financial derivatives, other, and financial assets, of reserve assets. And then the 4th account is unrecorded transactions. So all of that leads to the change in international reserves, which I can see in the financial or the reserves, the reserve assets. What has been happening? Did we have an increase for the period that they report on in our reserve assets because of all the transactions between South Africans and the rest of the world? So there's a rich source of data in terms of South Africans. What do they do? What do they purchase? What do they buy and sell? Can you see that? All right. Or did we decrease? That's a story of the South African balance of payments, just knowing how it looks. Right. I'm putting this also for you on Sunland if you just want to refer back to this. This is for using September 2015's quarterly bulletin data. Right. So for Tuesday, you're going to say, but what does it mean? So you have to come and think about that. Yes, ma'am. The capital transfer account. Anybody can help me quickly. What is a capital transfer account? That's basically where assets would go to another country without anything being sent in return. That was the example of my brother immigrating to the UK. Okay. The picture there was Canada and an airplane and stuff. Right, everybody with me. So you now know how the balance of payments looks. There is no information in the textbook on the balance of payments. They've taken that out in this new edition. But you have to know it. Right? So you have on Sunland, this will be on, plus the Reserve Bank's quarterly bulletin we have in yesterday's session, that review and the statistical tables. Okay, you can, on your way out, please put your filled out form here. The guys on live streaming, if you can email me your answers to lnieu, LNIEUW, @sun.ac.za. Thank you. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a fabulous weekend.
I was in the instrument, but I forgot which class it is. You might not just give it to you.
Yeah, I'm just.
I did make a photo.
I sometimes just lose the things. So can you just write your student number and your name? Your name is there, but just your student number and the date that you. Oh, you can just sign. It's fine.
Sure. And the date that I missed.
That it's applicable to. Thank you. Yeah. Did you go to Mandarin?
Mandarin, yeah, I did.
You can just put it there. That's fine. Thank you very much.
Last week Wednesday, what was that?
Today is Thursday, so it's 8 days. I don't know. It's something like that. I can check.
Tell you now. Was it last week Wednesday? 30. How many? 30.
Where are we now? We're now at the 8th. Is the 8th today?
Yeah, last week Wednesday was the 30th.
Oh, okay.
So the first was.
It is on there. The 30th.
Oh, okay. Awesome.